Hello and welcome to a two-part mini project. I was recently looking at potential areas on the Ork Warship to feature in my In Detail series. Whilst looking at the empty space behind the Zzap Kannon up on the foredeck, I realised I had always intended to have a crew member operating the weapon. Definitely time I did something about that. I had a good look from a bits box and I've found this legs and torso from the Ork Knobs box set. Seems like a good choice. Needed to be a large muscular orc capable of lifting heavy shells around. With that I'm going to use this head, which has the breathing apparatus. Seemed good for an orc that'd be working amongst the fumes and smoke whilst operating a cannon. Simple right arm, maybe support the base of the shell. And for the left arm I'm going to use this one with the power claw fitted. I'll probably have to make my own claw because the one on the sprue is not quite right for what I want. A couple of simple shoulder pads and a pistol and knife to go on his back. It doesn't need a main weapon, he's there to do a job. So that should be good. So the other part of this project is to give the orcs a means of bringing shells up from below decks. Considered a few different options such as this conveyor belt or a pulley and chain system. But I'm probably going to go with something like this, which is just a simple hole in the deck with a shaft going down. A couple of arms to cradle the shell, and those arms would move up and down and some pillars at the back. It's only going to be a static model, it's not actually going to work. For the shells themselves, I've got this 7mm plastic tube. Just going to cut it in half, make two shells. One will be for the orc to hold, and one will go on the lift mechanism. Did consider sticking this nose cone on from the Storm Boys set, but I think I'd have to trim off all the spikes. So in the end I think it's probably simpler if I just use green stuff to make nose cones and blank off the other ends with a bit of plastic sheet. So I'm just going to dry assemble the figure to see how the final pose will look. I'm just going to use small bits of white tack to hold everything together for now. There we go. I think that's going to work pretty well. Here's the orc holding what will become one of the shells. And the arms didn't really reach close enough together to support the shell with both hands. So I'm just going to have it held in the power claw, which I think probably looks better anyway. So the next stage is to take this apart and clean up all of the mould lines. I also want to stick pins in his feet to give him some extra support when I glue him to the deck. And I also need to get to work on the shells. This is one of the shells midway through building. As you can see, I've capped the bottom with a piece of 0.5mm plastic card. And I've used green stuff to make a nose cone on the top. And this is how the shell looks once the plastic card's been trimmed and everything's been filed flush with the tube and sanded with some abrasive paper. Here's the Ork now that I've cleaned up all the mould lines and glued him together. As you can see, I've also constructed the jaw of the power claw. This is just done out of various pieces of plastic strip. Got some 2.5 by 3.2mm for the main finger. The various bits of banding are done with some 0.75 by 0.4, and the rivets are just done with 1.2mm rod, and some bits of green stuff just to finish off the ends. And this does of course now hold one of the shells, giving us our finished pose. I've also added pins to the feet, ready to be attached to the deck. This was done just by drilling small holes into the feet and inserting some 1mm wire. This will also give me a handy way of holding him using a pin vise while I'm painting. After rinsing some soapy water to remove any remaining dust and greasy fingerprints, I mounted the Ork and the shells onto this piece of MDF and given it a coat of Chaos Black primer. I didn't actually glue the power claw onto the Ork yet, because it would be a bit tricky to get to some parts of it to paint. So these parts are all ready for painting now. So now that I know the size of the shell, I've done some measuring on the Ork Warship and I've made this more detailed drawing of what the ammo lift will look like. The larger section here will fit into a hole I'm going to cut into the deck, so this part will all be below the deck, you won't see that. You'll just be looking into the hole to see what will hopefully look like a lift shaft. And this section here will be what appears above the deck, which will be the support for the cradle that will hold the shell. From my drawing I've measured out all the pieces I need onto 1.5mm plastic card and cut them out. The parts over here are for the bit that goes below the deck, the parts over here are the bits that go above the deck, and over here we've got the cradle that holds the shell. It's using the same strip that the power claw was made from, and it will be held together with these two bits of 1mm wire. And here we have the basic structure of the ammo lift all glued together and sanded down. I've also assembled the cradle and added the bits of green stuff to help support the shell. I've also prepared these panels to go around the top part of the ammo lift. It's just made from 0.5mm plastic card. I'll just stress the edges with a knife. I've got some rivets cut from 0.5mm rod. This corrugated plastic here will go behind the slots, and this diamond plate texture is just a trim to go around the edge. And this is how the ammo lift looks with the cradle in place and all the final details stuck on. And with the shell, it looks something like that. Here we are at the end of the build phase of the project. We have the Ork loader using his power claw to hold a shell, a second shell, and the ammo lift. Everything is primed and ready for the next video, in which I will be painting the models and fitting them onto the Ork Warship. So until next time, thanks for watching.